Hey everybody. Today I'm going to make good on the promise that I made yesterday to do a video about tips and tricks to decrease unwanted behaviors. These are things that have worked for me in my life, and not saying that it has become easy for me at all, and not saying that I don't still have issues that I have to work on too. And so the things that I'm going to tell you today are things that you should add to what already may work for you. So if you want to quit an unwanted behavior or even just reduce it, sometimes the best we can do for the time being is to reduce it. And if you want to reduce it and you are able to, then you need to reward yourself for that somehow. In either really feeling good about yourself and what you've done, or possibly doing something unrelated to the behavior. So if your behavior that you're trying to reward is that you don't want to eat as many sugar-laden foods, the reward should not be donuts, cakes, cookies, or any sugar-laden food. Your reward should be something else, like maybe buying yourself a new coat or a new purse or a new shirt or something like that. So rewards that are of high value are really good to use, like a massage or a vacation, a trip to the beach, if that's your thing. Maybe a day of binge watching something, something that you don't do a lot, just something that is a high value reward for yourself. So that's really important to have in place. So when you think about quitting something, you want to kind of think about it for a while. Give yourself a date to quit or change the behavior. Even if the date is, let's say, tomorrow or next week, that's okay. Pick a date and stick with it. Then, while leading up to the date, and you don't have to choose the date first. You may want to first think about all the things that I'm telling you today and then choose a date. So so you choose a date and stick with it, whatever that date is. Then leading up to it, I want you to think about and write down. Is very helpful, whether you put it in a list in your phone or write it on a piece of paper, whatever you do. Think about, and this is why it's important to choose a date in the future, because if you want to think about what are your triggers to whatever it is that you do. So if you pick a day at least a week away, then during the week leading up to quitting or changing the behavior, think about what things trigger you to do this unwanted behavior. So if your unwanted behavior is eating sugary things, what causes you to do that? And pay really close attention to it. It will be hard at first because you're just doing it basically subconsciously. But once you start thinking about it and being intentional with it, you should be able to determine what things make you do that. I had a bad day. I feel stressed out. I feel more anxiety. I'm upset with somebody. I feel offended by somebody or something. I'm scared. I'm worried. A relationship is, I'm struggling in one of my relationships, and we had an interaction that was unpleasant. Whatever it is that leads you to do this behavior, write it down in the week leading up to it. And if you're having a lot of trouble with something really important in your life, like your mother is dying, or your husband and you are working towards an inevitable divorce, or you're going through a divorce, you are dealing with a life-threatening illness like cancer, your child is really having a lot of problems and getting in a lot of trouble at school and other places, you may want to think a little harder about, give yourself a little bit more time. I mean, those are really hard times to quit. But having said that, we're always going to have things in our lives that are scary and stressful. So be careful in using any of those situations to decide to let yourself keep going. If you are with the unwanted behavior, if you are going to keep going with the unwanted behavior, see please yesterday's video and just own it and don't feel bad about it. But if you really want to change your behavior, just know that it's going to be extra hard when you're going through a stressful time. If you believe in God or whatever you may believe in, that's also helpful because you can turn to the Father in prayer and during meditation. But anyways, so leading up, more on that in a minute. Leading up to the date that you're going to quit, you're going to write down your triggers, and after you get a list of them, I want you to think of what things can you do to either stop the triggers from happening or to combat the triggers with some other more acceptable behavior. So if you are going back with the example of eating sugary foods, you may find that when you get extra hungry is when you really go for those foods. So one of your ways to stop that from happening, of course, would be to feed yourself sooner. Or I've also found with my time of fasting that drinking a lot of water all at once, at least 16 ounces up to 32 ounces, all in a period of 5 minutes time, which you can do. You just have to set your mind to it. That's just 6 ounces a minute. I think we could do that. It's not too much. Or 3 ounces in 30 seconds. You can do that. But anyway, so if you drink a lot of water, that will fill up your stomach and it will actually hold your hunger off for 1 to 2 hours. It really will. I've done it a lot of times. You can't believe how well it works. But anyway, so determine something that's going to soften that trigger or make it not as easy to happen. So you pick a date, you write down your triggers, you determine what actions you can take to stop the triggers from happening or lessen them in intensity. Another thing I want you to do is write down in your phone or on a paper all of the things that you don't like about this unwanted behavior. So I perceive addictions to be a sort of a jail or a prison. So for example, if you are, and some, like I said yesterday, some things are easier to stop doing. Like it may be easier to, you may have more reasons for wanting to stop shooting up heroin or smoking cigarettes than you will for wanting to stop eating certain foods, because we have to eat no matter what. We don't have to shoot up heroin and we don't have to smoke cigarettes, but we all have to eat. And so changing the type of food in some ways is easier than quitting those other things, and in some ways is harder. So anyways, I want you to think about, though, if you're, even the sugary snacks, you're in a jail because it's a jail of your mind, because you're thinking about it a lot. You can't stop thinking about it. You're constantly looking for a way to satisfy this craving. It keeps you from being free. It keeps your mind from being free. So that's what I mean when I say it's a jail or it's a prison. You're constantly dealing with it, and it won't let you be free to enjoy life in other ways without stopping to think about it. So for me, when I quit smoking, this was the most effective, wonderful thing I ever taught myself or reminded myself, is that once I quit, I said the first cigarette that I smoke will be like a delicious slice of heaven. And the second one that I light off of the first one, and anybody who's quit smoking totally understands. So the second cigarette that I light off the first one will also be wonderful. But the third cigarette, that by the time I smoke the third cigarette, which may be a couple of hours after the second one, or maybe just 30 minutes, is going to put me right back in cigarette jail. It's not going to taste good. We think cigarettes, those of us who quit smoking, probably think that cigarettes were delicious or wonderful, or we loved them at some point in our life, or if we always hated them, we never would have developed an addiction. So, so the third one would put me right back in cigarette jail, constantly thinking about it, having to go outside, having to hide it from people. And it has me beholden to it. So try and relate that to whatever the unwanted behavior you're doing is. So write it down. Write down the things that you don't like about it. If you are eating sugary food, maybe you have a bad taste in your mouth after you eat it. Maybe the feelings of guilt that you have, even if you try not to, but they are there. Write that down. How does that make you feel? Write down, verbalize on paper how it makes you feel, because you can focus on that, and that can be a powerful motivator to not put it off. Whatever it is, the behavior that you're wanting, that the unwanted behavior that you are trying to stop doing, whatever it is, whenever you want to do it, put it off. Put it off for at least, start off putting it off by 5 minutes. And you can do this before you actually quit. Start postponing the unwanted behavior by 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, a couple hours, a day. Start doing that, because that will become a habit for you and become easier. Let's see. Those are some, and then basically rewards. So once you reach certain milestones, give yourself a reward. If you want to at first start small, and if you go a day without the unwanted behavior, then what reward will you give yourself that day? Think of something that's worth it, but not too great, but something that makes it worth it to go one day without doing the behavior. And then if this is a behavior like smoking cigarettes that you do every single day, multiple times a day, then definitely reward yourself after one day. Somehow find a way. If it's a behavior that you just do a few times a week, if you can go a week without doing it, reward yourself then with some kind of medium value reward. Once you go a month without doing the unwanted behavior that you normally do just a few times a week, give yourself a bigger reward, like a massage or a spa day or a pedicure or a shopping, a time to go buy some clothes or something that you enjoy doing, time to work on crafts. Anything that you might enjoy really doing that you don't really have time to do, find a time to do it and reward yourself. Also, another thing, when you are, after you've quit, you've gotten to your date, you've written down the things that trigger you, you've written down the ways to stop them, and you've written down the things that you don't like, and you focus on all those things. Include prayer in getting through the cravings and postponing. Include prayer, include meditation, free and clear your mind, so that you're getting rid of stress, because stress is a big thing that leads us to do unwanted behaviors. And then sorry, I'm doing this just without notes, which may have been a mistake, but I had something else in my mind, but it'll come back to me. Anyways, so these are all really important ways to try and stop unwanted behaviors that are making you feel guilty and making you feel unhappy. And picture yourself. That's another thing. Visualize yourself not doing these things as a person who stopped doing it, and think about all the ways that you will be more healthy, all the ways that you will save money if it's something that costs money, like almost everything costs money that you would be doing that you would be wanting to stop. So think about other things that motivate you that will be wonderful, and see yourself, envision yourself not doing these things and doing something else instead. So these are just some ways. This video is already 15 minutes long, so I don't know that I have that many followers that really want this video or need it. And so if you guys want any more tips, tricks, hints, I've spent a lot of my life dealing with things that I've had to use these coping mechanisms with. So please email me at themiracleofbeautifulyou@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to talk about it with you. themiracleofbeautifulyou@gmail.com, all spelled out in regular English words. Or of course you can comment if you want to. Anything that I can do to help you, I'd be more than happy to help you. I've spent a lot of time dealing with this sort of thing and working through it, so I can definitely help you with that. Take up your time that you would be doing these things with other things. That's another one. Like if you like to play the Wordle, I guess is the latest, whatever that game is called, Wordle on your phone or something, or if you like to something that you like to do that uses your brain to do it, like a word game or a crossword. I know that's old-fashioned, but any sort of things like that use your brain, it can take your mind off of it, something that you enjoy doing. Anyways, and just let me know if there's anything I can help you with more. If I think of some more things, I'll tell you. But writing things down so that you can reflect back on them is really important. And I did mean to say this earlier. Once you quit, because our human bodies have a wonderful ability to adapt, once you quit, whatever this is, it's not going to seem as big and bad to you as it was when you did the behaviors constantly or routinely. It's going to seem like, it's not really that big of a deal. I could do it here and there. You really will, I promise. And that's why it's very important to write these things down and go back and reflect on them. You will not have the feeling anymore that you had in the past of how much you hate whatever it is that you hate that you're doing. So write that stuff down and reflect back on it, especially in the beginning, but going forward as well, anytime you think about it. And join support groups, that's always good. You can always find them on YouTube or that sort of thing on the internet. A lot of them are free and won't cost you much. And there's a support group for everything. So I hope that I've been helpful to you. Everybody has addictions. I say probably not many of you on my channel, of my 19 subscribers, have any issues that they need to stop, but I bet you actually all of you, we all do things that we kind of think are bad or shouldn't do. So I bet there are more of you than I would think that have things. But you see, in human nature, I just showed you an example of how we all think that we're the only one with these issues. Because I just sat there and said, probably not many of you need this video. And I bet you more of you than I realize need it. But I don't realize it. So please remember that you are amongst many who have the same issues. I love you. Please love yourself. Remember, you are beautiful, you.